Hi there, I'm Simon Bronson, and here's my tutorial Making Form Cinematic for AE Tutes, aka Deconstructing Form Experiment Number 1. That's a video I did a few months ago and uploaded to Vimeo, and a couple of people asked me how I did it, so here goes. Here's the example video that we're going to try to make today. It's using form, but in a more abstract way, with a bit of depth of field on the camera and a few different shots. There's got to be a few sections to this video, so I'll just run through what we're going to do. There's creating the film junk, such as dust, scratches and leaks. If you've already got these on hand, don't worry about them. Then there's the base form object, adding cameras and then editing the shots together. Okay, I'm importing a composition of a little bit of dust that I cloned out of Photoshop. In fact, it's 4 frames, shortening it down. 4 frames, fine. I'm going to sequence these out. That's going to become our basis of our dust plate. Let's make a new comp. Dust plate. I'll make it 720p, 10 seconds. Throw our dust plate pre-comp in our main one. Make a solid, and we're putting form on this. A new camera as well. Any camera's fine. Zoom a bit. And let's tell form to find our particle. Particle is a custom particle. Dust bit 1. And we want a random frame from here. For now, I'm going to make the size a bit crazy, but we'll make it smaller later. Let's scale up the form, but we don't really need that many particles, so that should be fine. Let's go down, disperse them a little bit. 120 is fine, and then we'll use the fractal field to really make them go a bit wild. Okay, displace 1000 should be fine. Bit of flow, 190, 100, and then our evolution. Got quite a lot of evolution on that, and 500 for the offset. Let's have a look. Okay, they're moving pretty random. Obviously they're a bit too big, but we can always take that down. Size of our particle. Take it down a little bit, but let's just say we want a bit of randomness with that. Have a look at that. We've got an okay dust plate. It's not as punchy as I would like, so what I'm going to do is put a shift channels on so I just see the alpha. Shift channels on that, and we want to take the alpha from the luminance, and that should really make those particles pop. And then perhaps a bit of a Gaussian blur. Put that on 0.5. Once we look on full res on your end, you probably have to tailor that. The next step is to make some scratches. First I'll make a scratch pre-comp. 20 wide, 2000 high. There we go. New solid. It's fine. Put a beam on that. I just thought I'd use a beam because it's a bit underrated. helps to put the top of it on the top and the bottom. I suppose I could have just used a solid. Let's make that white. Make that white. Then on top I'm adding a fractal noise, which will give it a little bit of interest while it animates. Now, I could put points on either end, but I'm going to put an expression times 4000, which is going to look after our revolutions. And then that is going to lumimat our beam. And just as we do with the dust, I'm doing the same thing with scratches, creating a form comp. Scratch plate. Make that a 720p. 10 seconds, that's fine. Put our scratches in there. Add form. Turn that off. Create a new camera. That's fine. And then we'll go through just as we did with the dust. So the particle will be our custom dust particle, scratch particle, sorry. We want a random loop. Let's change the form of this. So we've probably got too many particles in there. We don't really need that many. We only want one in Y and one in X. But well, let's make this really big. And then nothing in Z. Change the opacity. Actually, leave the opacity up, but I'll put a bit of randomness in. And then I'll use a fractal field to displace all this stuff. Get that to affect the opacity. 200. And then in each axis I'll change a little bit of the displacement. And then the flow, 59, 41. Offset evolution, let's offset it a little bit. Make sure it's working. With our camera, I'm just going to zoom in a bit because I just want a few of those lines. There we go, we've got some scratches. Okay, next up is my favorite bit. It's light leaks. Make a new comp, go new solid, and then I want to put a ramp in. Light leaks are those cool things that happen when the film gets fogged, but often gets used in editing these days as a really cool kind of transition. We have an orange to a red kind of scenario. So we've got one layer. I'm just going to flip that and then use hard light. Okay. Need to make those layers 3D and then add a light. That's fine. You can already see how the light's operating there. And then I only want this 20 frames, by the way. It's very short. Halfway along. I want to get quite bright and sort of ramp up. So from quite bright, from nothing, copy that, because I want to take it back to nothing again. So we want that kind of burning sort of scenario, and also I'm going to add a little bit of a wiggle to that so it's not too perfect. Say 5, frequency of 5, the number of 30. So look at that. So we just want that kind of burning thing happening. Maybe that's a bit too hot. Take that down. I'm going to duplicate that light. I'll put it on the other side this time. So both sides are kind of burning. So look at that. I think that sort of suits our purpose. Now obviously you could do quite a few of those, but this should suit us for this comp. Well, if you stuck with me this long, we're finally about to do some form. Let's create my first shot. 10-second long. Solid, form, new camera, it's fine, and let's get into it. First of all, let's just change size in the Z depth, only 35 particles in X and Y, and for now nothing in the Z axis. Then we're going to use a fractal field to really do some of the interesting stuff. First of all, affecting the size by 2, and then I'm going to break this down individually. 108 X, 175 in Y, 30 in the Z. You can probably already see it's already making kind of an interesting shape. Then flow in the Z at 18, evolution 20. Just got to offset that a little bit. Start, then put a loop on it. And the loop is going to be 30 seconds long. Put absolute noise. Now I'm no expert on these. I just stumbled on, and I'm just sort of duplicating some of the settings that worked well for me. 1.6, max 1, F scale 6, complexity 7, and I think that's it. Let's give it a little bit of a brand preview of that. Now, one of the most important parts of this project is the color, obviously. So now I'm going to look at layer maps. I've added 2 layer maps here. One is Leonardo da Vinci, and the other one is a Van Gogh. Paintings and photographs are a great way to use colour, because obviously the artist has agonised over the colour, and we can use that. So within Form, if we go to Layer Maps, I'll pick the Van Gogh one, functionally RGB to RGB, and then over the XY. And then if I go to the Van Leonardo one, and then increase the size. This is the base form that we're going to use. Okay, now I want to start adding cameras. I'm going to add a new camera, 15mm one. Really want to go up nice and close. And one thing I neglected to mention before was that form doesn't put depth of field on by default. So under form, you have to make sure you have depth of field on, and then same with your camera. You need to enable depth of field as well. It's under camera options. If we put depth of field on here, this one I'm just going to have a little bit of blurriness, aperture of 5, and then a blur level of 70. This is just want to take it away from being really sharp. And I just want a couple of little particles sort of coming in and out. Perhaps I'll move in a little bit closer. That's fine for the first shot. Okay, I'm going on to shot number 2 now. Just duplicating shot 1. Duplicate that camera as well. Just going to turn off the depth of field just for now, and then move the camera around. I want to sort of get a bit of an angled shot, seeing the particles straight on, sort of rotating, zooming in. That's good, although I want to be on the other side of it. That's pretty good. I sort of want to get the foreshortening happening here. The particles sort of coming at me. So I might just change this field of view. Maybe make it a little bit wider. And then change the aperture here. Of course, I probably need the depth of field on. And you notice form does interesting things when you have the depth of field on, because you can get some great effects. I'm going to have a thing where I actually focus really close and then go back. The focus distance on there. Really short at 37, and then say over half a second I'm going to zoom back out, just shifting the focus a little bit. Let's have a look at that. I think that should be quite effective. Okay, for our last shot I'm going to put a couple of cameras in. So I've just duplicated our camera here. I'm going to turn off depth of field for now and zoom out a bit. I want to rotate form so we can see it on the side more. Every time I do this I get a different result, so bear with me. Change the orientation a little bit. So on this one I want to focus on the back and then to the front. So putting on the depth of field again. probably more about where I want to end, and then the start, I'll take it to 100, so 100, and then it goes to about 37. Let's have a look at that. That's quite cool. Next thing, I'll get rid of these old cameras here. I'm going to duplicate, I'm going to split camera 3 with, and then I'm going to split the form. And why I've done that is I'm going to add form in with a little bit of Z depth. So I'm going to put particles in the Z axis, and then I take my new camera, I'm going to turn the depth field off. And what I want to do is spin, sort of travel through all of these. So what I'm trying to do is line up each instance of form, and then I'm going to go through them. So I might start there, need a position, and then take it all the way to the end, but then I'm just going to push through them all. The last one I'm missing a little bit, so just take it over a bit and then go through. So hopefully, if I've done everything right, it's going to go all through them. Now with our depth of field, and turn that back on again. Field on. Take the focus distance from far away. And I might bump up the blur level so as we go through it has a very shallow depth of field. Now, so I didn't bore you with my computer rendering, I have RAM previewed this out so we can have a look. There's a little jump there, but we can fix that when we go to comp it all together. Now, also for ease of use, I'm going to render out my shots and meet you at the next stage. We've done all of our individual shots, and now here comes the fun part where we bring all of them together to edit a master timeline. With the new timeline, I've got all of the individual shots here. You could just use the individual comps and you don't need to have rendered them out like I have, but I thought it was a little bit more convenient if I did. I'm just going to trim these down and then do a bit of sliding to find a bit of an interesting way to bring in each little shot. You could just as well do this in an editing program, but at least in After Effects we can do a bit of comping at the same time. With shot 2 I just changed the camera a little bit because I wasn't totally happy with how it was looking before. And add a little bit of a ramp to the start of it with a bit of time remapping. So where it does a little shift, I'm going to put a little point there, and then bring in the end point so it sort of speeds up a little bit by half, and then I'm going to put a little flash there as well, which could be cool. And then the last shot, we had a couple of cameras on this one, and then so I think I'll split that layer and then come into this shot just a little bit later, and then I'll do another little rampy thing at the end. Time remapping, put a point there, and then I'll bring in the last frame so it really whips in at the end. and then trim that off. Put a little point there so we know that's the end. And I'll start adding some layers. This is an adjustment layer. I'm going to put a little bit of noise over the whole thing, which will really help the comp. I found that it doesn't really need that much. I'm just using 8% noise. I'm just viewing this on half res, but obviously it'll look a bit better on full res. I'm just doing this for convenience sake. So at the start, as well as having some noise, let's go to our different plates that we've got. Got a dust plate. I'll just put that on as an additive over the top, and I'll just take down the opacity a bit because it's probably a little bit strong. Obviously you'll need to change these depending on how much sort of dust or whatever effect you want to have. Same with the scratch. With the scratch, it seems pretty intense, so I'm just going to go back into that. And then in the form settings, I'm just going to take down the amount of particles. I might take it down to 50. Go back out of that. And then I'll also take the opacity of this down. Maybe down to 60. You know what? I think I only want one of those scratches, so I'm just going to put a mask on that. In fact, after all that effort, let's just take it down again. I think I have a tiny bit of that, so I just have it appearing just a little bit, just a tiny bit of a scratch. And at that edit point, I think a bit of our light leak could look good too. So I'm just sort of layering these up. Because it's solid, we need to make that additive. Probably take the intensity of that down. Just do a bit of a preview. On the second shot, I was thinking of having a little bit of a red ramp here, so create a new solid ramp. I just want to trim that to the same length as shot number 2. Put a ramp on. This will need to be add as well. But rather than white, just got to go for a deep red. Bring down the start of that ramp. Just sort of get a sense of some of the heat coming through. And then also bring the opacity down of that. Now with this one, I was thinking of maybe having a little bit more of a glow. So, set glow. If I take the threshold right up and just have a tiny bit of glow, just hopefully should make that pop a little bit better. And say between this shot and this shot. Let's have another little bit of that light leak stuff. Add. Might flip that over. And I might make it a bit taller. And this time, maybe just come in a little bit on the left. Preview that up. Just sort of helps the edits there. And obviously you can go to town with how much dust and whatnot you want to put in. It gives you the idea. I have to acknowledge the good work done by Andrew Kramer from Video Copilot. He's got some brilliant plugins that I love to use, such as this film fade plugin. I'm just going to stick it on the end of this one here, and if I hit U, you can see the keyframes, and it'll really give that nice filmish sort of fade for the ad, rather than just traditional opacity. It really does change the hue. And then I'll do the similar thing for the start. I'll put one of these film fades in at the start. Just bring these key points in. And there we go. Rendered that up and you've got it done. Obviously you'll probably want to add some sort of music or soundscape to the footage, or you could use it as a basis to react for a waveform. There's plenty of great tutorials out there. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with, and rather replicating exactly what I've done, I hope this could be a jumping off point to ignite your imagination. Looking forward to seeing what you come up with, and please put your thoughts in the comments. Okay, bye bye.